There are triggers for this book, which I'll list, but they involve like human trafficking. There's some graphic violence. Just there's quite a few triggers for this book. I'll list them out at the beginning of the video, but just be mindful, proceed with caution, take care of your mental health, because this is a dark romance.
And it's we're gonna have a spoiler warning here too. This one, out of any of the books that we've talked about so far, I guess other than Satan's Affair, but this one's like one of the darkest of romances.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty bad.
I feel like the real dark, like this, there's dark stuff in this one, but some of the real dark shit is in its second part, Hunting Adeline, which we'll have a video on next.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Oh my gosh, where do we even get started with this book? Bailey and I love this book.
This was what introduced us to just dark romance stuff like this. I hadn't even been reading for a while. It'd probably been like it had been a while, a couple years probably, since I had really gotten into reading again.
Yeah.
And then we just picked it up randomly off a shelf.
You picked it up randomly off the shelf.
I flipped through the book and I was like, and his fingers were where? His gun was where? So
yeah. Oh my gosh, it's like I don't even know how to explain it. Like something that's so good that you almost don't even know where to start because I feel like you don't know how to give it justice and I don't want to miss any details.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you did. I know that yesterday we hadn't when we last spoke, but I didn't skim through this book. I personally plan on rereading it just because I loved it so much, but I'm trying to give myself enough time to forget it, kind of goldfish brain it. Did you end up wanting to skim it or?
Yeah, I started rereading it, but this week has just been so crazy that I haven't gotten a whole lot. I wanted to read Assassin's Blade, so I didn't really get super far in this one.
Yeah.
I did skim it earlier, and then I was looking up TikToks about Haunting Adeline, which were pretty good. Yeah. I sent you a couple, actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, so where to start? So I will say, from the very beginning, the main character obviously is Addie or Adeline. And then later on, you're introduced to the other main character, which is Zaid. So I gotta say, from the very beginning, I liked the scenery in which they described Addie's life, like this haunted manor or like almost Victorian Gothic manor that she inherited from her grandparents, which has its own little like history of like spiritual stuff. And there's a mystery, obviously, that's a part of the story too. It's not really like the main plot, but kind of. It has like a sideline to the story. But I just loved that. I like love spooky things. So the like Gothic Victorian kind of like house that she was living in, I love that.
Like the ghost
Yes, the ghost,
the spirits.
Yes, it was nice for me to imagine it because I like to be thrilled. I like when my toes curl. The edge of my seat.
Did I send you that TikTok of it? I think it's for Sarah J. Maas books, but it's when the author writes their toes curl or something like that, and like the toes kind of like retract.
Yeah. Sarah J. Maas, between that and wiping lint off their shoulders, those are like her two favorite lines.
Side note, because I know we're still on H.D. Carlton.
Yes. This is my favorite book of hers too.
Yeah.
Out of all of them.
I think this one's my favorite. Though I did see a review this morning of a girl who preferred Where's Molly?
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. It's not bad, but it's very much like a sideline.
Yes.
You know?
Haunting Adeline is just such a good dark romance book.
Yeah.
And I feel like she does a really good job of playing the fine line between Zayd being real fucked up and like actually crazy, or like
Yeah.
the crazy.
Look, she introduced me to things that I didn't even know that I would have been into. Like, I remember when you had finished reading the book, you were even nervous to tell me about it.
I was like,
You
do
were. I don't
because
want her to think that I'm weird.
well, and you remember when I picked up this book, you picked up self-help books.
Yeah, I was literally reading, like, how to get like, overcome anxiety, like, I was studying the science of anxiety.
Which is awesome, right? Like I think that it can really help some
Right,
people.
but when you compare the 2, they're totally drastic different kinds of
The
books.
things that they do in this book, some of them are pretty woo. And so
Yes.
I was actually afraid to like tell you to read this book.
I know you were nervous for a while, but I'm gonna be honest too, when you were telling me about it, like, I was even kind of like, "Hmm, interesting, that sounds a little
Dark.
wild."
Yeah.
Like, I was a little intrigued, but at the same time, I was like, "Damn, Bailey's into some fucked up shit." Like and then you were like, "You can read it if you want, like, no pressure, whatever, whatever," and I think I did pick it up, and then,
Yeah.
like, it literally had me not even 10%, like,
Had you
a couple
in
chapters
a
in.
chokehold.
Chokehold,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah, it was so don't look, everybody, when we talk about these scenes, and if you haven't read this book, don't hate it until you read it, okay?
Yeah.
Just and you know what? There are this book is also controversial
Hmm.
because you will meet some people who absolutely hate this book, and if you like the book, they almost, like, may put you into a certain category of, like, that's not okay, but one thing about us, we're not gonna judge you for what you read, okay?
No.
Like, whatever you're into, that's your own niche, um, and obviously this book is very successful, so you have to have some sort of, like,
Yeah.
audience, and the reason I'll go into why a lot of people didn't like it, was because there's a lotta what was the word that you used yesterday? It's like a term?
It's called CNC, which is consensual non-consent, and it's
Yeah.
I would just look it up. It's not as uncommon as a lot of people think, but in the book, it's I know a lot of people had a problem with it when you read it if you're not familiar with that term or you don't really understand the girlies who thrive off of thrill.
Mhm.
You don't understand, like he's it could seem like he's forcing himself on her, which he is, but in the context of this book, she is very intrigued by it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets for some people, it's like a blurred line or a gray
Hmm.
area and why some people don't like it because it's like at the end of the day for some people and like I get it, right? Like because it is that lack of choice.
Hmm.
Some people just think it's borderline like R word, so they're not into it. However, and Bailey and I discussed this, the reason why it doesn't bother us is because it's switching, it's switching uh perspectives between Addie and Zayd. And when you're reading what's happening to Addie, that like Zayd's doing, because he's also her stalker, right? So when you're reading like the things that he's doing, you're in her head. She's narrating how she doesn't know why she's into this or why she's like intrigued. And
Hmm.
so you know that she likes it. Therefore, as the reader, you're not uncomfortable. Whereas if it was, I'm scared. I'm
Yeah.
scared for my life. I'm like, this guy's disgusting. He's a ick or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. It would have been very different. We wouldn't have enjoyed the book. So once you know where the main
Yes.
character stands, I don't get why it needs to be like an
Well,
issue.
and it is classified as a dark romance.
Mhm.
It's a very common theme along a lot of dark romances. Because I've read all of the Lord series, and it's
Mhm.
seems he's not unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that some people also just don't agree with the him stalking her, but then his profession of saving women and children from sex
Right.
trafficking.
It is hypocritical, right? In a sense.
But we love a baddie with a good heart. So,
Mhm.
um,
Look, it's imaginary. Obviously, this is so unrealistic. It's play
it's a
pretend. In
book.
what world is this happening? It's a
Yes.
book. It's fictional. Like, this would never happen, but that's also why it's so intriguing. So live a
So
little.
yeah, look, okay. The way they describe Adeline, and she's an author. She loves the thrill. She's a
Yeah.
horror girly.
Mhm.
I'd want to stalk her too.
Oh, you know what? There is actually so this was something I was thinking about we could, like, introduce, but I
Hmm.
never remember to say it. Who we imagine the characters as, at least, like, even if you think of, like, an actor or an actress, because that's
Okay.
kind of what I'll do. Unless you don't do that, then
Yeah.
you don't need to, like, pretend, but for me, like, I have to I know some people will, like, imagine themselves in it. For
Yeah.
some reason, I can't do that. I don't know why, I need to imagine somebody else. You do that? You're
What
like,
do you mean her name
"Guilty,
is
Your Honor."
Adeline? Her name's not Bailey?
But, yeah, like, for me, I need to imagine someone else, I don't know
Hmm.
why. But f in this book, I imagined, she's not a super well-known actress, so it's gonna be kind of hard to explain her, but
I'm sure I could, if you know her name, I could probably put a picture of her right
I
here.
I don't know her. Oh, okay, let me see. I could find it. She's actually the daughter of the guy in Criminal Minds, the main
Hotch? The
no.
no.
Which one well, which one's Hotch? Because 'Cause weren't there 2 guys who were, like, leading the team, but they switched out in seasons? It's a fucking
Oh, you're
spider,
talking
isn't it?
about Jason Gideon and
It was a spider, sorry.
oh fuck, what's his name? The Italian guy.
Yes. Which one? Yeah, the Italian one.
The
It's
Italian one.
actually
Okay.
it's either his daughter or his granddaughter. She's not a very well-known actress, but she was in the movie I think I've told you about it, but I don't
Rossi.
think you watched
Sorry.
it, Unaccompanied Minors, which is like a
Mm-mm.
Christmas movie, but she's in it, and she's one of the girl characters, and I've always thought she was so beautiful, and she's who I pictured her as. So, let me pull up her name real quick. Um
I'll for certain characters, I find it hard to picture someone else's. Like, I kind of have to just create, like Zayd, for example.
Mhm.
I feel like it's kind of hard picturing maybe like body style. I could find someone who I think would look like him, but his face is just so unique to my like brain. And I know that they say you can't like there's like you can't create faces in your brain, but I've seen some AI pictures of him, so that's kind of
Yeah, right. I
where
do
my brain's
struggle a
at.
little more when it comes to guy characters, imagining them, than
Yeah.
I do the women.
Because they
Okay.
have a certain
Her name
standard.
is her name is Gia Montegna? Tegna?
Montagna? I don't know.
Maybe. It's Mantegna.
Montagny.
Maybe. She's probably Italian too, so I know I'm butchering it.
Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna look her up.
But she was who I pictured as Addie the whole time. I don't know why. It, like, came naturally too. I don't know why. Like, it was her that came in my thoughts. And then, yeah, with Zayd, that's like that for me in every book. Every main guy character, he's almost like a question mark in my head, and then I let other people online form
Mm-hmm.
how I view him.
Montagna.
I think so, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
To me, she's how I pictured Addie.
I could see that. I could see that. Damn, she did get her father's looks though. She do look
Yeah,
like him.
she is a baddie.
I was like, wait, what color is Addie's hair? And then because I've read Where's Molly since then, I was picturing.
Isn't it gold? It's like cinnamon
Yeah,
in the book.
yeah.
It's cinnamon, but
Cinnamon?
hey, pretty close. Just don't if you burn it a little bit. You got that nice like poison ivy hair. I don't know if I classify it as cinnamon. Your natural hair color, I would say, is cinnamon.
I don't even know what my natural hair color is anymore.
Yeah. I think maybe because I'm a brunette, I always picture brunette.
It makes you feel there's still some like even if you are picking an actress who you see in your head, is it still Like, is it solely based off of like the description in the book, or do you still kind of like go towards people who you feel like you may share some traits with? So like how you have dark hair, like
Right. Not always. It depends. Like for some reason with Addie's character, I think because everything was just so dark,
mhm.
like I just wanted her to be a brunette. Whereas like and it's fine, right? Like the author, she's like, "No, it's cinnamon hair," but I'm like, that's okay. It's a little
No,
detail that I can get rid
we
of."
need a big titty goth mommy. So
Yes, exactly. Well, I almost wanted her to look like HD Carlton herself, if I'm
yeah,
being real.
I
Like
could see that.
that's what I was kind of picturing, like the dark hair, like all of that. And then like but it's not always like that because for example, in like right now we're reading the Throne of Glass series and the main character is Selena and I know that they describe her hair as being like golden, but I'm not even
I
no,
picture
no, no,
brown hair.
golden. No, well, but I am sticking with golden, and I don't know why. I don't know why I am sticking with it, but I am. It's just I think my brain, if it doesn't fit this who I feel like they should look like, then I won't. But if it does, then it does.
I make my own characters.
Yeah, pretty much. It's all make believe anyway.
um, what scene should we talk about first? Should we talk about
Ah,
the hands on the front porch? I forget
yes.
you.
Well, we can talk about first how she first gets selected. Or I don't know if selected is the word, but he comes upon her where she's at her book
Mhm.
signing, right?
Yeah,
Um, and then he like shows up and it's just random everybody. It's not like he was looking for her. He sees her like a picture like outside that
yeah,
like library where she's doing the signing. He sees a picture of her and he like focuses in on it and then
he's
he
like
goes into the
her.
library. Yeah, that's the one. Take my money right here. Um and so he goes in there and then he sees her and then he's like, yeah, she's going to be the one that I stalk.
And she actually
She doesn't
senses
even know.
him. Like,
Yeah, she does. She does sense that somebody's just, like, staring at her. And then I think she sees him briefly,
mhm.
and she does think he's, like, attractive, but it's not enough to, like where
She's
she
also
knows
in
what's
the
about
middle
to
of the book signing, so she sees him,
yeah.
but then they lock eyes, and then someone walks in front of her, and it's like a scene in a movie, and then he's gone. So she
Yes.
sees
Oh my
him.
gosh, I would love if somebody made a movie. I don't know if it would be
Oh
accurately,
yes,
like yes. Oh, that would be great.
that'd have to be like a rated R movie, though.
It's
Is
like a
that?
reward.
It,
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
could you even make that a movie, or would it could? I feel like with a lot of the scenes in here,
Oh, well, yeah.
I
You
mean,
know
look, they just got to be
uh,
okay with being dirtier than 50 Shades of Grey because that.
hey, yeah, they made right. They made 50 Shades of Grey a movie and they have some pretty crazy scenes.
Yeah,
Sure, it's a little darker, but whatever.
I want the scenes that are in this book. I want
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he sees her at her book signing and says, "That's
Mhm.
the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
She's the one for me."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he follows her home, and she actually sees him. Does she sees him, right? A time or two, like standing outside of her house. A lot
Yes.
actually before he actually
Yeah.
like comes in to her house.
Right. See, that was almost the best part, some of the best parts for me.
Hmm.
I like the chase. So it was so and I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a slow burnish.
Hmm.
Not really bad, but I feel like it wasn't until like halfway through the book where anything actually happened. Um
I'm like,
no, like don't get me wrong, he like sent stuff, but like them two actually doing something, yeah, it was pretty I feel like it was pretty later in the book.
I mean, he definitely taunts her, teases her. Like he'll
Yes.
break into
Yeah.
her room. I think
Yeah.
this far through the book, he's already touching her.
Oh, he is? Okay, then
Hmm.
I was wrong. It's maybe 25, like 25% ish in the book. So I guess it's not really a slow burn. But
Well, but the
yeah, that I guess
romance
that's
part is
the
definitely,
romance part
yeah.
is. because he's already into her and he knows that he's gonna like she's going to be into him.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of like getting there because she's very much so resisting it because the idea of like falling for your stalker is actually crazy, right? So like she's like, no, why do I feel this way? Whatever, whatever. This is disgusting. This man's crazy. This guy's a
Mhm.
psychopath, and he does little things is where like he doesn't immediately like go to like catch her per se, but he like leaves little roses around her house, which to her shows that he's been in and out of her
Yep.
house, but she hasn't seen him. And he cuts off the little pricklies on the
The
rose. Ah,
thorns.
how romantic! Yeah, the thorns. How romantic. The bar is to the floor.
He
But
definitely shows that she's it for him.
yeah, and then that's where like so you want to talk about the how it escalates to the hand thing?
So she goes out with her best friend Daya. And I think it's Daya. Daya. I'm gonna call
Don't
her
ask me.
Daya. However everyone else says her name, I call her Daya. Um, she is going out with Daya, and I know that they go out once before the hand thing happens, and
Mhm.
she's out with Daya. They're having drinks or whatever, and Daya's like, "Man, you really need to get fucking laid. It's like a desert down there." And so she takes her phone, she takes Adeline's phone, and she texts this guy that I guess she's hooked up with a few times, or like that Adeline is hooked up with a few times through Ad's
Mhm.
phone. And she says, okay. And then that night, the guy comes over because Daya texts him and says, I really need you to fuck me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so he's like, I'll be there at 8. And so he shows up that night and they're starting to get hot and heavy. And then
Wait,
something,
wait, wait. Wait, but you forgot one of the parts. So she goes to the club, remember? And there's like that
oh,
VIP
this is
section
before the club.
upstairs.
The part that I'm talking about is before the club.
Oh, because it
'Cause
happens
there's two
twice.
different guys. The first
Yes,
one,
you're right. You're right.
the
No,
first,
yeah,
the
go. Continue.
you're
No,
good,
it's
but
fine.
no, you're good.
Go ahead.
The first one is just a guy that she's gonna hook up with, and then Zayd like bangs on the door, and he scares the shit
Yeah,
out of the
that's right.
dude.
I totally forgot that, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, and that's like fairly early in the book. And he doesn't cut that guy's hands off because I guess he didn't get very far. He left, punched a hole in Adeline's wall because he got blue balls, like a child.
Yeah, he was just like a crappy he
Yeah.
was just like
He was
bleh, a
immature.
ick.
And
Yeah.
and then a few nights later, I think her and Daya go to the bar and they meet this pair of brothers. And one of them is interested in Daya, one of them is interested in Adeline.
Mhm.
And she takes him home to her mansion out in the middle of nowhere in the woods. Um yes.
But before that, she
Yes.
gets a text before she even gets home. Remember when
Oh,
she's with the guy?
see, I don't remember that part. So you
Yeah, so, she's at the club with this guy, and, like,
yes.
they're, like, feeling each other, I think they were, like, even dancing together, I'm not sure, but,
Yeah,
like,
they were.
then Zayd sends a text to her phone, which she's never given him his number, she doesn't even know his name at this point,
Yeah.
and it's from an anonymous number, and he sends a text to her phone that's like, "If if he" I don't know if he
Oh,
touches you again or something like that,
yes.
his hands will end up on your doorstep or
Yep.
something like
He
that.
warns her. He warns her that if
Yeah.
you take this guy home and you let him touch you, I will cut his hands off.
See, I didn't forget that scene because I'm a little crazy in the head, and I loved that. I loved the dominant
Yep.
aspect in that.
Yeah. So, in spite of him, because right now it's not Zayd. It's just her stalker. It's this guy who
Yeah.
is breaking into her house, leaving roses in her house, drinking her grandfather's whiskey, and leaving a glass on the
Oh,
counter.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
standing outside her window, just kind of like watching her. She'll like taunt him. She'll like go on her porch and she'll be like, "What?" And then he'll like be gone. So they haven't fully, I don't think, confronted yet at this point.
Yeah.
And she takes the guy home, who the guy and his brother are actually a part of, like, I guess you could call it, is it like a gang? Like they're a part of like a
Yeah,
big,
pretty
like
much.
important family in the town that is
Yeah.
important later on in the book.
Mhm.
Because there is a plot to this book. It's not just fun and fucking.
Yeah. F and F. It's not just F and F.
um, that's what we'll call the books that are just for the smut girlies, the F and F books. Um, and she has like this side part to her house that is like, is it like a sunroom? I guess that's what it's called, where it's like
Basically,
all glass.
all glass, yeah.
And they start making out in there, and I think he like sticks his hand down her pants. They actually end up fucking, I think, her and that
Yeah.
guy.
Um,
Or do they just
maybe. I don't remember, but I know that his hands go somewhere that they weren't supposed to go. And she is also like she knows in the back of her head about like that message, but she's kind of just like whatever. Like this guy's crazy. Like I'm not going to like forget him, right? And like pushing the limits. And so she does what exactly what Zayd told her not to do.
mhm,
Um and then the very oh no, and then something happens like there's like banging on the door again or something. And
mhm.
so the guy leaves to go check out what it was, and when he leaves, he, like, completely goes out into the front yard, and doesn't he not come back?
Yeah, doesn't I'm he doesn't come back. I'm trying to find the part in the book so that way we're
Yeah, like, from what I remember, he leaves, and then he doesn't come back, and
yeah.
then she's kinda like, "Whatever," and then the next day, I think the next morning? I don't know, but the hands like, on her doorstep, there's, like, the friggin'
They're in a
hand.
box, I think, right?
Yeah.
They're in a yeah,
Mhm.
she opens the door. She knows, right, that something happened though to him because he just like walked outside in the middle. I don't even think he had a shirt on. I think he was trying to confront because Zayd was making noises, trying to like scare him.
Interrupt.
And
Yeah, right.
the guy had a gun, and that like he had a gun on him, and he walked out with a
Mhm.
gun, and he walked around the side of the house, and then he never came back.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and Addie knows because he fucking texted her and was like, "Don't do it. If you do it, I'm gonna cut his hands off." And she's like,
Yeah.
Fuck you. I'm gonna do what I
Yeah.
want."
Well, because she doesn't even really, like, know him, like, she doesn't know his name, she doesn't truly know what he looks like, so
Yeah.
she's kind of just like, "Who is this weirdo?" And, like, keeps
Hmm.
going. And then, yeah, his hands are on her doorstep on a silver platter.
And you know what? We girlies we like that.
Hey, I'm not gonna complain.
He Look, it's just the protective nature of like, if you touch what's mine, I'll kill you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And look, if they make those TikToks where it's like when you're actually stuck in a room with all of the guys that you've read about, and
Help!
it's like, let me out, open the door.
Yeah.
But in the book,
Yeah.
yeah, you put those hands on my doorstep.
Mhm.
That
Yep.
possessiveness.
I remember reading that for the first time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was just sitting there like, you know when you need to look up at the wall and just like, "Wow." Like, that just happened. I'm almost in shock.
Yeah,
And then from that point, what happened after that? I know that I feel like at that point, wasn't there more taunting of him just, like, standing outside her window, and isn't it like he slowly almost gets closer? Not super close, but, like and then she just, like, always sees him when she's looking out her window, and then I
yeah,
think she gets really pissed off, and so, like, they text and they're still texting back and forth.
yeah. She has she has called the cops a few times since then, more like just to
Mhm.
like, because he's like, you won't do it. You won't call them, and so she does it just to spite him. She doesn't. I
Yeah.
don't think she really wants him to get caught because she is still enjoying it, but she just wants to be like throw like a fuck you in his face, like, I'll do what I want, and then she'll call the cops on him, and the
Yeah.
cops will come and they don't find anything.
Yeah. Oh, and he calls her little mouse.
Yeah, that's part of the chase aspect of it.
Bro, I don't actually think there's a name in a book yet that has topped that for me. For some reason, I really like that one. Like, even other ones, they almost are like not all of them, but some of them are kinda cringy for me.
Yeah,
It's really easy for me to get the ick, everybody. But, like, Little Mouse, love that. The only thing that, like, competes with that is Feyre Darling.
yeah, and it's just the way that you can hear him say it.
Feyre Darling. Or, yeah, Little Mouse.
Okay, I think I found the part in the book where they're doing stuff. Her, and that crime family guy. He's from part of a crime family, by the way. That's what
Yeah.
they
So
said
then it
about it.
ends up making like a bigger rabbit hole.
Yes, and so when she's sleeping, when she's about to sleep with this guy, he calls her a pretty bird. Um, and it's like that's not,
Brother. Ugh.
yeah, brother.
Ugh,
Ooh.
brother.
But
Yeah.
little mouse. It's also the context of which he uses it, because he uses it when she's running from him.
Yeah, that's why it's called cat and mouse. Like
Yeah.
he's the cat, she's the mouse. Ugh, love that.
She.
And so yeah, they go back and forth a lot. The cop thing, she
Mhm.
like the first time they actually get face to face with each other is when he keeps like testing her almost, and she starts to almost rebel because it's starting to like make her mad. And
Mhm.
so she goes out and like literally doesn't she go up to his face?
She goes out. Uh, I
And it's like nighttime.
is it the
Ooh,
part
I
where
love
she
it.
goes out on her porch with a knife?
I don't.
She grabs a knife
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Carlton,
Mhm.
and she goes out on the porch. Hold on, I think I found the part where they. She says, "I'm gonna call the police," and he's like, "Do you remember what happened the last time?" Which was nothing. And she goes outside. Yeah, she grabs a knife, goes outside, and then she sees him. He was on her balcony in her bedroom. She was upset. He was in the house. He was in the house. That's what it was. He was in the house. He was already inside, and she had grabbed a knife and she heard him upstairs. And so she went up there. And when she went in, she was like, he didn't even make it. He didn't even try to hide it. Her fucking balcony doors were open, and he was in there. And
Ah,
that's close to 100, page 185. So we're
yeah.
like this far in,
Mhm.
and now they've confronted each other. And when he runs into her, he says she's not saying anything, and she just kind of takes a step back, and he's like, "Does a cat have your tongue, little mouse?"
Yeah. Ooh, he ate with that.
Yes. And then I think this is the part where he tells her, "Run, and if I catch you, I fuck you."
Dude, and that became look, even bike talk, mask talk
Hmm.
started taking that phrase and using it because he really ate with that one. He did eat
Yeah.
with that one.
Yeah, because it's, again, it's for us thrill girlies. Like, she's like, her heart's
The
pumping,
truth.
the adrenaline's going. She's attracted to him, right? Like, there's been all of
Mhm.
this build up and tension, and now he's like, now you're gonna get it because you want to shit talk.
Wait, I'm about to say something real mean. I saw a funny TikTok that was like, "This isn't always the case, okay? This is a joke. I'm gonna preface this, but it's it's only harassment when he's ugly."
To whoever it is, right? Like, everyone has their
Yeah.
own type, not
Which,
just,
yeah, but like I said,
yeah.
it's not always how it is. You can be attractive and still like be like sick in the head. But
Look, I definitely am a Zayd stan.
well, he's your favorite out of all the book guys
Yeah, yeah, he
so
is.
far that we've come across. He's your favorite.
Though I will say he competes with the guys from the Lord series. I definitely think that there's more romance in this book than the Lord series. So I do pick Zayd.
Look, I automatically my vote goes to Haunting. I did not like that series, but you know that I
No, I
didn't
know
like that.
you didn't like that series.
You know I didn't. Y'all, I wanted to like it so bad. I like my daily dose of smut, just like everybody else. But for some reason, that dose felt a little expired. Don't know what it was. Couldn't get into it.
It
Just
was,
couldn't do it.
it was the
The lack of
unrealistic,
plot.
yeah, and the
It
lack
was
of plot.
unrealistic. The lack of plot. I'm very big on plot. Like, because if not, then it's like for me, like, there's no emotional, like, it's just action.
Yeah.
But a lot of people aren't like that. A lot of people just need their daily dose and then they're good. It's like a fun little book, you know? And then yes, so there's that scene. And then eventually I can't personally get myself to say the words. So
You
you're more than welcome to if you want to. You also don't have to,
are
but
we?
the
No,
gun
I'll do it.
scene.
We have to talk about it.
I
So
I'll
I'll
be
talk
here.
about it.
I'm rooting for you.
Okay, so there's a really famous scene in this book where I think it's near this part where he's chasing her. She's taunted him now. He's in the house and he's chasing her. And if he catches her,
Yeah,
he's gonna do stuff to her. So
yeah.
they end up in the sunroom, which this is a pretty popular room in the. I guess because of all the windows, it's for our exhibitionist girlies.
Well,
Um,
I think also he does it in this room in spite of her,
yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
that's where he catches her, but I think that's also why it's in this room
yes,
because that's where the other guy and her, like,
yes, exactly. That's where the
yeah.
other guy put his hands down her pants when he was not supposed to touch her,
Mhm.
and he takes his gun. I don't know what kind of gun it is. I know that it's a pistol. Um,
It doesn't matter.
yeah.
Unless it's an AK. That's kinda wild.
No judgment. No judgment.
Yeah.
And he fucks her with the gun. Um, and
See,
she go ahead.
that is probably the most talked about scene in the book,
Yes.
and just honestly in any, like, if there was ever, like, a ranking of dark romance scenarios,
Mhm.
that one is probably number 1 or number 2. It's pretty
Yes. It's
cinematic.
it's up there with the shark scene from Does It Hurt?
Yes, yes, that's exactly the other one I was thinking of.
Yes. And she enjoys it. It's not something that she's not like she knows that she should feel wrong about doing it, but she doesn't.
Mhm. Yeah,
She's
she's, like, self-aware that this is
yes.
crazy.
Yes. And yeah, it's I enjoyed that scene.
Look, it was a great scene. I'm not gonna I can't pretend. It was great, it was different. Uh, yeah, it had me in shock, honestly, because I didn't know that. I don't know, it just opened my mind.
Yeah, it's because again, this was the first dark romance that we read. So we
Yeah,
went
which is
from
crazy.
never reading dark romance to him just giving it to her with his gun.
Mhm,
Um
mhm.
and he while he's doing it, he's also telling like who's allowed to touch you, and she's like only you. Like he's making her like
Well, and she always does that in the middle of that,
yeah,
like, when they're like that, but then as soon as it's over, it's like she kinda, like, comes back to reality off that
yeah,
high, and so then she's giving him, like, issues again,
yeah,
and so then it kinda becomes like a back and forth
yes,
thing, and the more that she taunts him,
hmm,
like, the more he's ready to, like, do what he has to do to remind her.
yes. And then I think progressively throughout the book, they start seeing each other more. I
Mhm.
know that and this is where my memory kind of gets a little hazy because on the look, my memory gets a little hazy on the plot part because I'm filthy. So, um,
No, it's fine. So, I know that, like, while this is going on, a lot of the so this manor, it ran that she's living in now. She inherited it from her grandparents who had passed away. She doesn't have a great relationship with her mother, which is kind of a part of the plot in this book. Even
mhm,
her dad, she just does. She's not very close with them. She was close with her grandparents, so she inherits this manor. And with this manor is a lot of like family stuff because it's been in the family for a while,
mhm.
and so she finds a diary of I think it was it her great grandma or was it her grandmother's?
It was her great grandmother's. Wait,
Okay, it was her great
yeah, yeah, it was her great grandmother's.
yes, it was her diary. And so throughout the whole book, she is like reading them and learning what was going on in her grandmother's life because her grandma had a very similar experience to what Addie was going through, which was her grandma had her own stalker.
And she was falling in love
And
with the stalker.
she was falling in love with the stalker and she was writing about it in these journal entries and no one in her family like her mom didn't like I don't think her mom completely knew about it. Yeah, so throughout the book you see almost in every chapter with Addie,
Yeah,
almost there's like a page from that diary, so she's trying to almost unravel this mystery of like who it was, and she doesn't see until a lot later on in the book that it's mirroring what's happening to her, like, even though she knows that she has somebody crazy, like, it just doesn't click right away.
yeah. Well, and one of the things that she struggles with is that it's said to be that her great grandmother was murdered by her stalker.
Yeah, yeah, it's like an unresolved, like, that's
Yeah,
a part of the investigating part,
yeah. Um,
which you end up finding out later in the book that it isn't the stalker
no,
who did it. It was not her husband, because she was cheating on her husband during this time
with the stalker,
with the
right?
stalker, but
Yeah,
it wasn't her husband, but it was her husband's
best friend
friend,
who was in
who's
love.
al best friend, who's also in love with the
Yes,
grandmother.
yeah.
Honestly, Addie's great-grandmama was pulling, okay? She
She
was
really
pulling.
was. But
Line up.
she again also struggled with the inside of like, I love my husband, but our marriage is just falling apart and
Mhm.
it doesn't work out between them. She's worried about her daughter, who is Adeline's grandmother, who left her the house.
Yeah.
And I guess again, spoiler alerts for this one, because it's part of the great grandmother story. But
Mhm.
she's murdered by her brother's best friend, and it's because he's in love with her and he finds out that she's divorcing his friend for another man that's not him, and because it's
Yeah.
not him, he murders her.
Yeah. Right.
And that's just crazy to me. Homie was like, you loved my friend, and then you loved another guy. Wrong. Me,
Mhm.
I was the next choice.
Yeah, right. So that's a big part, that's one of the main plots.
Yes.
And then the other plot, and this one is more for, Zaid, is, the so his job, right? He runs, like, a secret security, like, organization to help women and children that are being trafficked, um, called Z. And so he's the owner of that, and so he's also going out on these, like, missions and trying to take down this, like, secret society of
Hmm.
more, like, political
Yes. Yeah.
figures that are involved in, like, this society of, like, all this messed up stuff that I just said. But so he's also kind of, like, going into that while
Mhm.
also taking down anybody who shows any interest in our girl Addie, and trying to stalk her.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's something. Oh, we didn't even talk about the chase in the forest.
Oh, I forgot about that. Look, we both
Yes.
do need to reread this book.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm glad. I don't remember the details, but I'm not trying to remind myself yet because
Yeah.
I need them to hit
Yes.
like they did the first time.
Yes.
So I'm gonna wait. But the chase in the forest, those were some of my favorite scenes. They're so scary.
Yes. The so okay, so there's that scene and then there's the mirror scene, which I know we have some more things to get through before we get to the House of Mirrors, but that one,
Oh yeah, why did I totally forget about that? I think in my head I might have thought that that was in the second book.
it's close to the very end of the book
Yeah.
because
Oh
they
yeah, mirror scene,
yes,
that was great.
and that's where they meet Sibby too, and Sibby is from
Yes.
Satan's Affair.
Zaid meets her, right? Not Addie?
Yeah, yeah, Zaid meets her
Right.
because she and this is where you can read Satan's Affair before Haunting Adeline, because when
Mhm.
she meets Zaid, he doesn't smell rotten because Sibby can
Yeah.
smell like if you're bad or not, and he
Right.
doesn't smell rotten like his core doesn't smell rotten, but he doesn't
Mhm.
smell good either, and so she thinks that he's evil, but he's actually there to track down some of the people from the trafficking organization who actually
Yeah.
sacrificed a kid at an altar.
Yeah. Mhm.
Again, trigger warning.
And Addie also happens to be there at
Yes.
the that during that time. But so yeah, you'll see in Sibby's book that the exact scene where she meets Zaid is also in Haunting Adeline, but you get it from Zaid's perspective.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that that scene was good.
Yeah.
All of that whole thing was oh,
Uh,
Sibby even says in her book, she's like, because she loses track of him for, like, a certain period of time after they, like, murder those guys, and then he comes back and she's like, "Yeah, he seemed, like, ruffled and, like, out of breath when he came back, but it's because he went to the House of Mirrors," and I knew. I was like, "Ooh," and a "Oop."
that is probably the House of Mirrors is definitely one of my favorite scenes, and
Mhm.
it's just the description of it. There's the chase. She's trying to run from him through
Yeah.
the House of Mirrors, which honestly, why would you want to escape that man anyway?
It's the chase. It's the
Um,
chase.
And then do you want to say what happens at the end of the book? Do you remember?
Oh, with the car and all that?
Yes.
Wait, so I don't remember why why was she leaving again? Like,
So
in speeding away in the car? I know that there was something going on, but I forget what it was.
the she had actually found out throughout the book. So Zayd is haunting the society, right? That is
Mhm.
trafficking women and children, and they are like all of like the very like rich people like around the world. This like very
Right.
like wealthy like fucked up organization, and they have a list of like people who they know that they want to eventually take for trafficking, and Adeline is one of them. And so the people that so she goes to Satan's affair with her friend Daya, and there are three men who follow them there,
Mhm.
and they go into the house because they're planning on kidnapping them. And then that's where you see Zayd's point of view. He meets Sibby, and him and Sibby murder those three guys.
Right.
But before they're all dead, Zayd gets information out of them about where they did a child sacrifice, because he's trying to find the center of the organization that's doing this fucked up stuff.
Mhm.
And then they go into the House of Mirrors. They get their freak on. Zayd goes back to Sibby, finishes out the job, and I think the cops show up, because in Sibby's book it talks about how Zayd has to go back for Sibby, and then Sibby ends up getting arrested.
Mhm.
And so Adeline and Daya leave. Or no, no, frick. She gets a text, I think, from Daya's phone telling her
Yeah.
she gets
Yes, you're absolutely
yes,
right.
because she's in the house with Zayd, and then Zayd goes back, and then Adeline, I think, goes to leave, and she
Mhm.
gets a text from Daya.
Yeah, something about, like, she needed her, like, she needed her
Yes,
help, like, ASAP, and so Addie rushes and leaves, and she's, like, speeding to go get her, and then that's when her car flips because somebody
hit her.
hits like, times it to
Yeah,
hit her, and then that's where it kind of when it ends at the end of the book, but it leaves that plot open of like that cliffhanger, that's the word I'm looking for,
yeah. It ends on
of
that they take her, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to make sure that I got all of that right.
That sounded right, that in my brain, that doesn't sound like that sounds super familiar, I think you got it right. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
that's kind of then that leads into which we'll talk about. Oh, actually, we won't be talking about this next weekend, right? We'll be talking about
Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. We must make haste.
I cannot wait for part two of season three.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a Pollen stan. I really am.
I don't know if I'm quite there. So far, it hasn't finished yet. It hasn't finished, so I may change my opinion, but so far it's my least favorite. But that doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean it's bad.
Well,
It just it's my least favorite so far.
it's your least favorite.
Yes, it is.
I hope that part two livens it up for you.
Yeah, I hope so too. But yeah, I feel like that's pretty much the gist, right?
Yeah.
We could honestly go on for this forever just because we love this book, but
Yeah, yeah. And she does, so I feel like a big part of the book that is important is that she does fall for Zayd. It's not just this stalker like just
mhm,
hunting her and her just kind of like being on and off about it. She does eventually fall in love with him, and it is a love
mhm.
story, even if it has
Yes,
a lot of darker parts to it first.
yes, 100%. Like it she eventually is she's like an onion.
She's got layers.
She got layers. So eventually she does start to fall for him even though she tries to fight it as much as she can.
Yeah.
And I do remember though, this will probably be one of the I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a critique, but when I finished the book, I told you one of the things that the only one of the only complaints that I had was I didn't feel like there was enough romance.
Hmm.
It was a lot of like smut, and I loved the chase, I loved the thrill, I love that he was obsessed with her and only her, but, I didn't feel like there were a lot of moments where, like, he really knew her. He kinda just, like, chose her, and I was like, "But why?"
Yeah.
Like, because one of the like, when we talk about love, not to get all cringe, but, like, one of the reasons you love somebody is, like, characteristics about them, and
Yeah.
that's not just physical. So that was one of the things that, like, I was like, I just like, why does he love her though? Like,
Yeah.
why'd you choose her? Like, have you read her books? Like,
Yeah, because he just saw her. He just saw a picture of her and was like, "That's my soulmate."
yeah, yeah. So that was one of my only things was like they. I wish they like in that first book she had more things where he just knew about her
Yeah,
or like cared to know or like cared to ask. Which we'll get into hunting later.
yeah.
But yeah, that was I guess one of my things.
So, what would you rate this?
5.
Same,
Yeah,
no doubt,
5.
no doubt. 5.
Mhm.
This is such a good book. Such a good book.
Yes. I
And
like that's that and that was my only critique. I don't have a lot of critiques. It's 5. If you can make me want to eventually reread this series again, and I wish I could experience it again for the first time,
mhm,
like, I feel like that is to me what makes me feel like a book is good, and that's what this is. So,
yeah,
yeah, 5.
if I
And
could,
she tests the limits too.
she does.
You gotta give her respect for that. You
Yeah,
have to know when you're writing a book like this that people are gonna judge you. Some people
yeah,
might, like, ask you, "What the heck is going on in your head?"
yeah.
Like, that's a scary thing to put yourself out there like that, and she did. And H.G. Carlton, for that, girl, I hope both sides of your pillow are cold because us smut girlies appreciate you.
She really did an amazing job with Haunting Adeline and Hunting too. She did a really good job with
Yes.
the books.
Yes, she did. Also, she's gorgeous, which is just a bonus.
True, true.
Mhm.
Okay, well, we will see y'all next week for Bridgerton season 3, part 2.
Bridgerton season 3, yep. Oh my gosh, I can't wait, I'm so excited.
All right, bye.
Bye, guys.